There are some amazing tools and combos in BTD6, but the one that I see disrespected the most is the Jar of Pickles. Most of you guys know that pickles are good on towers with low damage, but I have put together these 17 best towers to put pickles on, and many of them will surprise you. The first is the 030 Druid. This guy has become a staple of the early game as he can solo many of the early rounds, but I am not kidding when I say that pickles makes him almost twice as good. His Vine becomes an absolute menace as it deals contact damage at the same rate as normal while also getting the bonus damage. With pickles, this guy will wipe out most balloons until round 40, which is crazy for such a cheap tower. Up second is the Wall of Fire Wizard, which is another early game powerhouse, especially in races. Just like Vines, the Wall of Fire does contact damage, meaning it will continuously pop balloons that are touching it, which works way too well with the pickle buff. Number 3 is the Bloontonium Reactor, and this blew me away. This is the first non-contact damage option, so the math is really simple. Pickles adds 1 damage at the cost of lowering attack speed by 20%. So if a tower normally deals 1 damage, it gets a 60% boost in popping power with Pickles. If it deals 2 damage, it gets a 20% boost. 3 damage gets a 6.67% boost, and towers that deal 4 damage break even. Now you do have to weigh in the benefits of layer skipping, but this is good to know for general use. And because the reactor does 1 damage to anything in its range, it gets a flat 60% increase in popping power, allowing it to destroy any non-mob class balloon before super ceramics start coming, which is crazy for such a cheap tower. Now the 402 submarine does take better advantage of this buff, but if you need some lead popping power, the 420 still does nicely. Number 4 is the 310 Buccaneer. This guy can shoot up to 28 projectiles at once that all do 1 damage, meaning he gets that nice 60% increase in popping power. The Destroyer is already one of the best balloon poppers per cost in the game, and Pickles takes it to a whole nother level. Plus, if you leave it as a 310 and buff it with Sharpening Stone, all of the grapes get +1 pierce as well. Number 5 is the Sun Avatar. This is our first expensive tower on the list, but it is so good that it deserves a top 5 spot. It has great pierce, attack speed, 3 projectiles, and most importantly, it stays at the ideal 1 damage. This guy already excels at the late mid game, and Pickles gives it even more soloing potential. And because you need Geraldo for the Pickles, you might as well make this Sun Avatar out of a worn Hero Cape Dart Monkey to save some money and get that pixel perfect placement. The next few towers I grouped into the Alchemist tier. They are amazing pickle candidates on their own, but they should always be buffed by a stronger stimulant Alchemist, meaning they will be doing 2 damage per projectile at the minimum, thus benefiting less from pickles. The first monkey in this tier is the 052 Elite Sniper. Now this one's main attack deals 2 damage, but we want pickles because of its shrapnel, which makes up most of this guy's damage and only deals 1 damage per fragment. Now these damage counts do go up to 3 and 2 respectively with Alchemist, but nonetheless Pickles is still a great investment for this guy. Plus you get the benefits of his global range, so it will always be firing. Number 7, 8, and 9 make up the rest of the monkeys in the Alchemist tier, and they are Never Miss Aces, Bloonjitsu Ninjas, and Overdrive Tack Shooters. All 3 of these towers carry in the early and mid game, have great attack speed, projectile count, and low damage. If it were not for them pairing so well with Alchemist, they would be much higher, but Pickles still work great with them. Plus, all 3 of these guys are great recipients for Sharpening Stone, which is another reason to run Geraldo with them. Number 10 might be my favorite one on this list, and it is the Apache Dart Ship. Now, you really have to be careful with pickling towers that have secondary attacks, but all of the dart ship's attacks deal 2 damage or less, making it a great pairing with Pickles. This makes saving up for the Apache Prime much easier, as rounds 60 through 80 do not stand a chance against a dart ship with extra damage. Pickles also works great with its earlier upgrades like Quad Shot and Razor Rotors, but the Apache Dart Ship is definitely the coolest pickle synergy that I have found. Next up, we have the Triple Gun Submarine. This one is pretty obvious as it has global range, good attack speed, several projectiles, and only 1 damage. I personally use this to help me Black Border Sanctuary, and I could not recommend it enough. Number 12 is the Sentry Gun Engineer, as all of its sentries get the pickle buff too. This might deserve a higher spot as the pickles get spread out to 3 or 4 towers with 1 purchase, but I couldn't quite make it crack the top 10. Number 13 is the Robo Monkey. Not quite as good as its brother the Sun Avatar, but still worth the $55 for the pickle buff. The one nice thing about this guy is that it really shows the difference between elk buffs and pickles. Now obviously elks are better, but pickles don't have an attack count limit, making it synergize with towers that the Alchemist does not. Number 14 is the Turbocharged Boomerang, specifically the 240, as picking up the bottom path increases its damage, making pickles less effective. I am personally a fan of doing this when saving up for a 250 permacharge, as that is when this crosspath really shines. Next up, we have the Spike Factory coming in at number 15. Now, really, any of the early tiers benefit a ton from pickles, but I prefer the long life spikes upgrade as it gives you a slower shooting deadly spikes for 1.4% of the cost. Number 16 is the Comanche Commander. Now, the mini helis have 2 damage, the main heli has 3 damage, and they shoot missiles that deal extra damage to ceramics and mobs, so it isn't the biggest buff in the world, but I'm very excited to see a tier 5 get a solid 10-ish% buff in popping power from a $55 purchase. And we will round out this list with number 17, the recursive cluster bomb shooter. I really wanted to put this guy higher on the list as extra damage explosions are awesome, but because you'll either be running a 204 or a 024 with an alchemist, all of the explosions will already be doing 2 damage, lessening the impact that pickles have. If you liked this pickle overview, you should check out my Geraldo video right here that covers all of his shop items and how you should use them.